Well, hey there, this is Brent Smith. I'm the Common Constitutionalist, and I'm coming at you once again from a secluded area in the woods. I kind of like it out here. This is a nice area, actually. At any rate, today we're going to talk about the tax bill, or taxes in general, and I'll give you my opinion at the end of where I think this all should go. It never will, but it should. So we're going to discuss that today on the Common Constitutionalist.
You are listening?
No, you limey. They're not listening. They're watching.
The Common Constitutionalist, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
Alright, welcome back. Like I said, we're going to discuss the tax bill. We're not going to go into specifics about the tax bill, just some of the overall impressions I have of the tax bill, and some comments, of course, and probably some diversions and whatever. Okay, so with any luck, I'll be able to stick to my notes this time. We'll see. So the House passed their version of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that's what they're calling it, the Tax Cuts and Job Act, earlier in November. And now the Senate has passed their version of the tax bill. The House and the Senate will have to convene now in a conference committee to reconcile the differences between the Senate bill and the House bill. And then once the two chambers of Congress draft a unified bill, for want of a better term, then the House and the Senate will have to pass that unified bill, and then it will go to the president for a signature, and then it'll become a law. That's the plan. And this is all supposed to be done by the end of this year, by Christmas. That's why Trump wants it done. McConnell wants it done. We haven't heard much about Ryan, although I think that he probably just wants it done. Everybody wants it done. They want a victory, and they want it off the plate. That simple. So the Senate bill retains the current income tax system, 7 brackets, of course, progressive, naturally, while the House version collapses the 7 brackets into 4. Is that 4 or 5? Is the mega bracket of 45,000% or whatever the heck it is for the ultra-rich, populist Republicans? Want this extra bracket? Is that the 4th bracket or the 5th? I'm not sure if they're counting it. So let's just say there's 4, because I haven't really kept up with it, because that's not going to be the final version anyway. So it really doesn't matter. The wealthiest Americans would have to have their income tax fall to 38.5%, down from 39.6 or something like that. So it ain't much of a fall. While the lowest bracket will fall to 10%. So there will be an actual cut. Not much, but an actual cut. Similar to the House tax bill, the Senate version will double the standard deduction for individuals to $12,000 and $24,000 for married couples. The Senate bill also raises the child tax credit from $1,000 to $1,650 per kid. So instead of cutting tax rates drastically or cutting them across the board, what they do is they cut a little bit and then they meter out, yes sir, may I have another. They meter out a little bit of incentive. So they raise the deductions instead of cutting your taxes. I would rather them cut my taxes than raise my deductions, because basically they still have a mode of control over you. If they're still collecting the taxes, they collect it all, and then they say, here, you can have a little bit more back because we're benevolent. And that's basically that's the mindset in Washington. That is not a tax cut. Just because you get a bigger rebate or you get a larger deduction or something like that, or a child tax credit and whatever, it's not a tax cut. Okay, you don't actually get to keep more of what you earn. They just give you a little more back of what you've earned. And like all progressively structured legislation, the government still gets to pick winners and losers. And this is the tax brackets pick the winners and losers. The deductions pick the winners and losers. All this stuff. Populist Republicans, populist politicians generally, they like picking winners and losers. So you do, they stick their finger in the air, and they say, well, this is the way the wind's blowing. People don't like the rich. Our voters don't like the rich. And there's not as many of them as the rest of the voters, as the middle class and the lower class. So we're going to punish the rich. Sure, we're going to lower their taxes a little bit, and then we're going to lower the corporate rate, which is terrific. Don't get me wrong, that is fabulous. But it's still progressive, and it's still picking winners and losers. And that's not what the government's job is supposed to do, or supposed to be. They're not supposed to pick winners and losers. And with my gloves on, it's cold out here, so I've got my gloves on, and it's hard to turn the page. And if I don't turn the page, I won't stick with my notes. And that's an unfortunate thing. And it's the picking and winners and losers and whatnot, and the progressive income tax, they want it that way because it is a mode of control. And again, it may sound conspiratorial, but it's just a fact. That's just the way governments work. It's just that's the way human nature works. Where it works, that's the way governments work. And it's why we don't have a flat tax, or we don't have a national sales tax in lieu of all the other taxes. But I'll get to that maybe later. We'll see. I wasn't planning to do a sales pitch on any one particular form of tax, but it may come to that at the end. We'll see how fired up I get about this. So unlike the House draft, the Senate bill also eliminates Obamacare's individual mandate to purchase health insurance, and good for them, good for the Senate. When was the last time anybody said good for the Senate, good for Mitch McConnell, or good for anybody other than the Mike Lees, the Ted Cruzes, and those guys? It's bloody rare that we actually get to stand up and say, you know what, good idea, why didn't the House do that? I don't know. But good for you, people in the Senate, the ones that passed it. 51, I guess it was, 51 to 49. So the way Yahoo describes it, presiding over the Senate, Vice President Mike Pence announced the 51 to 49 vote to applause from Republicans. Senator Bob Corker, Republican from Tennessee, was the only lawmaker to cross party lines, joining 48 Democrats in opposition. And it's funny the way not a single Democrat could get behind this bill. Not single one. And think about how odd that is. Not in a million years could you get 48? Yeah, 48 Democrats. Not in a million years could you get 48 people and put them in one room and have them agree on one thing. There's no flippin' way in the world that you're going to get 48 people together and have them all agree in kind to something. It doesn't matter what it is. Frankly, it could be the time of the day or the way the sun's positioned, and everybody's going to have a differing opinion about it. So it's just unbelievable. Yet the Democrat Borg collective always somehow they seem to maintain this single stream of consciousness, and it is an amazing feat. Frankly, it is absolutely stunning that they can continue to do this year after year. But that's the way collectivism works. So the measure focuses on its tax reductions on business and higher income, higher earning individuals. It doesn't really. It focuses on the tax cuts for businesses, but it doesn't focus on higher earning individuals, as I just pointed out. The fact that it just lowers it down to 38.5%. Wow, they get to keep, like 1% more of their money. Woohoo. And that'll probably be written out too. But, and it gives modest, and they say it gives modest, and this is Yahoo, of course, it gives modest breaks to others and offers the boldest rewrite of the nation's tax system since 1986. And that's how many years ago? 21 years ago, something like that. And that's pathetic. When you think about that, this is the boldest rewrite. This tax bill is the boldest rewrite we've had in a couple of decades or more. That is 31 years, actually, I guess it is, isn't it? Yeah, 31 years. Holy crap, that's even worse. Sorry about that. Math's a little rusty. Brain must be a little frozen. Don't know. So anyway, and frankly, if what they said was actually true, I wonder why that would be. it's because I've got it written down here. So 20% of earners, of the top earners, the top 20% of earners pay 84% of the tax, of the income tax. All right. Now everybody pays FICA, so that doesn't count, because you always, that's the big comeback, always, that, well, the lower income people, they pay the FICA tax. Well, everybody pays the bloody FICA tax. You can't get around that. The fact is that the top 20 earners pay 84% of the tax, while the bottom 45% of Americans pay zero income tax at all. That's it. None. Ridiculous. So they've got no dog in the fight, or, you know, they've got no skin in the game, or whatever, you know, cliche you want to use. But nothing's riding on it. They don't care as much because they're already not paying taxes, and a lot of these people, their income is low enough, and they have enough deductions and whatever, the standard deductions and whatever, that they actually don't pay taxes yet still get money back. So they're making money off of the government. What a deal. Heavens. Oh, and so Corker's the only one who voted no, okay? And but he originally voted yes on a motion to proceed with the Senate tax proposal bill. Man, this is tough. But it's cold out, so I ain't taking my gloves off. Plus, I had to slog through the woods, so I didn't want to hurt my hands, so I wore my my tactical gloves, so you can't hurt yourself. Okay, so anyway, after he was reassured that the only reason why he voted for the procedural vote to what would it say? The motion to proceed with the Senate tax bill proposal was that he was assured that the Senate bill would include a fiscal trigger that will dial back the tax cuts should the tax bill fall short of revenue projections. And there you go. Just another example of the government they have to get their money regardless of how many people have to suffer in order for them to get their money first. They don't care who else has to suffer. They don't care who else doesn't get their money back or has to pay more, as long as they get their money first. So this fiscal trigger would pare down the tax cuts or raise taxes effectively, or take away deductions or whatever they do, if the tax cut the tax bill would fall short of revenue projections. All right. So, and isn't it interesting? And I'm certain that this will never happen, that there's no fiscal trigger to dial up tax cuts to give us more tax relief, should the tax cuts exceed revenue predictions or projections. Wouldn't that be an interesting thing to put in there? An incentive, as you were, that if we get more revenue in, like we did during the Reagan times, where we basically doubled the GDP, then we would cut taxes further and allow us to keep more of our money, because the government doesn't need that much blanking revenue. Just saying. All right, so we're going to take a quick break here, and I will be right back with some more fun and frivolity regarding a tax bill. Wow.
You're watching the Common Constitutionalist video podcast.
Yeah, baby!
Okay, welcome back. And again, I'm Brent Smith. I'm the Common Constitutionalist. And we're heading into the second half, maybe the last. I don't know if it's going to be the second half or the second of three periods like hockey. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So anyway, speaking of Bob Corker, he said to the fact that he voted against this tax bill. Again, not that it's any great freaking tax bill, but it's something. And the fact that it has the elimination of the individual mandate in there, which could be the precursor for getting rid of Obamacare. Not that it'll be in the final bill, but that's I'm going to say it. That's pretty ballsy. Good on you, Senate, for doing that. Don't know if it'll make the cut, but we'll see. So Corker, to his no vote, said, obviously, I'm kind of a dinosaur on fiscal issues. He battled to keep the, and the reason why he was battling to keep the bill from worsening in the government's accumulated $20 trillion in IOUs. Yes, so we have a national debt of $20 trillion. When Obama came into office, it was like $10.6 trillion. Now, Bush doubled it from 5 to 10, and then Obama doubled it again. Now, they couldn't have doubled the deficit, or excuse me, the debt, the national debt. The Congress and President Obama couldn't have done it in 2 years, because the Congress took over the Tea Party in 2 years, in 2010. So from basically in a year, for a year and a half, whatever, 2009, 2010. And then Obama was still able to double the national debt under Republican watch. So, you know, Corker, blank you, buddy. He's not a dinosaur when it comes to fiscal issues. He's a establishment hack, just like most of them are. And he's not a great deficit hawk. And I could go through a bunch of his votes and things like that, but you really don't need to these days, as long as you've got the interweb. You can Google Conservative Review, CR's Liberty Score. You Google that, you click enter, it comes up, you click on the site. The Liberty Score site comes up, you pick your state. Corker's a Republican he's the junior senator from Tennessee. Lamar Alexander is the senior senator. So you look at Corker's Liberty Score, and it's a big fat freaking F, 47%. So don't get fooled by saying he's some sort of deficit or fiscal hawk, because he isn't. Now, a lot of these people will say that they're fiscally conservative and more liberal on the social issues. Well, that may be fine in private life, in the private sector. You could get away with saying things like that, maybe even believing it. But when you're a politician, they go hand in hand. You cannot be fiscally conservative and more liberal on the social issues, because every time you vote for something that's more liberal on the social issues, it comes with a cost. It comes with a fiscal price tag, because you're not voting just to hear yourself vote. You're voting to spend our money. And so when you vote for a liberal issue, so to speak, let's fund Planned Parenthood. Where's that damn money coming from? Excuse my French, but where's it coming from? So don't tell me you're some sort of freaking fiscal hawk, because you're not, Bob Corker. But you know what? He has a Liberty Score of F, letter grade of F, and a Liberty Score of 47. It could be worse for you people in Tennessee. You could have two Lamar Alexanders. Lamar Alexander makes Bob Corker look like Ted Cruz or Mike Lee. Because Lamar Alexander also has an F grade, because they don't have a Q or a Z, but he has a Liberty Score of 17. Now, this Liberty Score goes from 1 to 100, and he's got a score of 17 out of 100. So it could be worse for you people in Tennessee, and frankly, it might get worse if you're not smart when Bob Corker leaves, because remember, he's leaving. Whew, but I digress.
You're listening to The Common Constitutionalist. Let the truth be known.
Okay, welcome back. Let's finish this off, shall we? I wasn't going to go there or go here, but I think I'm going to go here, because I'm tired of the tax system in this country. Heck, I think Russia, don't they have a flat tax? As bad as and evil and wicked as Vladimir Putin is, he instituted a flat tax in Russia. I'm pretty sure it's like 17% or something, flat across the board. Russia can do it, but the Soviet Union can have a flat tax, but we can't. I mean, give me strength, people. So, anywho, might as well just go there then. All right, y'all can tune me out at this point or whatever, because that's about all I've got to say about the tax bill. It's a start. And so good on them for at least trying to get something done. Trump can trumpet a win, and everybody will be happy, and it'll certainly help. And the corporate tax rate, cutting it down to 20 or even 22%, is going to make us competitive with the rest of the world. It'll be one of the lowest tax rates in the world, which means that a lot of dollars are going to be repatriated back. Jobs will be created because more corporations will want to headquarter here, I hope. The problem is that the winds change on this stuff. Tax cut bills come around apparently about every era, about every 30 freaking years, generation, or whatever it happens to be. Tax increase bills happen all the time. So if I was a corporation, I would be very leery about picking up from Asia or Europe or wherever I'm at, South America or Mexico, and then moving back to the United States. Only in 4 or 8 years another Democrat president gets in, or whatever, a Democrat Congress takes over, and the taxes start going back up again. I'd be a little worried about that. So, but if you had there's two schools of thought as far as another system of taxes. There's a flat tax, and most people are on board with a flat tax. The detractors always say, well, that's not fair because everybody pays the same rate. If a poor person, if the flat tax is 15%, then everybody pays 15% of their income. A poor person will pay as much as a rich person will pay. Well, that's just bull crap, and it's just arithmetic. It's easy math, addition, whatever. You take 50, well, okay, it's not quite that, it's not quite as simple, but it's pretty bloody simple. You take 15% of $50,000 and 15% of $1 million, and which one's more? Okay? A guy making $1 million in income is going to pay a crap load more tax than a guy making $50,000 or $25,000 or whatever. And as far as I think Steve Forbes originally had the flat tax idea back in the 90s, maybe, something like that. And his idea was it was like the first $48,000 of income, you don't pay any tax at all, and then it's like 17% across the board or something like that for everything after that. So you're a family of 4 living on 48 grand a year or 40,000 or whatever the heck it is. You pay no income tax at all. None. Zero. How fabulous is that? But at any rate, I am not a huge proponent of the flat tax. Would I prefer it? Other than the progressive, nonsensical winners and losers collectivist tax that we have now, abso-freaking-lutely any day of the week I'd sign on to that. But a flat tax still forces you to pay the tax. No matter what you do, if you earn an income, unless you're an illegal alien that earns cash under the table, then if you're earning an income from a legitimate company, you're going to have to pay that flat tax, no matter what. So I am a proponent instead of a national sales tax in lieu of all other taxes. First thing you have to do before you institute a national sales tax is get rid of the 16th Amendment, the income tax amendment, so the withdrawal amendment. You have to get rid of that first, so that has to be struck down, period. It's buried, dead and buried, 6 feet in the ground, and you can't dig it back up again, all right? Then you have to basically write the law that the sales tax will be X amount and can't go up for 10 years. Can't go up for 15 years. It cannot. And actually you would be better off making a constitutional amendment. And this is something that the Convention of States could actually do. So hooray for Mark Levin. But so that's the first thing you do, is you need to do safeguards first against raising the sales tax, where it starts like Woodrow Wilson and the progressives. They always say, well, the income tax will only be X amount, and then in 5 years it's double. Well, what happened? Well, you didn't get any ironclad agreement. So you have to get an ironclad agreement in writing, and that's why a constitutional amendment would be much more beneficial than a law. But at any rate, So you get an agreement in writing that the sales tax is going to be 10% across the board or 15% across the board on every daggum thing, maybe except for food. And that's it. No essentials, no clothing, no nothing. Okay, everything is, you buy a house, you pay a national sale. You buy a car, you buy a shirt. It doesn't make any difference. You pay a national sales tax. But you don't pay any other taxes, and you write into the law or you write into the amendment that the sales tax is X, and you can't raise X for a decade. That's it. Done. No matter what they do, they can't raise the sales tax, and they can't add additional taxes beyond the sales tax for 10 years. So you can't have a sales tax, and then the following year they write in the fact that there's going to be a sales tax and a 4% income tax, or a 4% flat income tax, or something like that. You can't do that. So there has to be a lot of safeguards. Now, why am I a big proponent of a national sales tax in lieu of a flat tax? Because the point is the flat tax is still confiscation. No matter what you do, they put a gun to your head effectively and say, pay up. You have to, if you have a job, if you're employed legally, you have to pay this flat tax, no matter what. With a sales tax, I've got the option. Okay, if I want to buy a Honda or I want to buy a Mercedes, okay, I have the choice. All right? If I don't want to have to pay the tax on the $70,000 Mercedes, I can buy the $35,000 Honda and pay a lot less tax. That's my choice. I have a choice to pay that tax or not pay that tax, or just not enough, as much as that tax. If I don't need that big new flat screen TV, but I just want to buy it, and the sales tax is 15 or 20% on that thing, and I don't want to pay it, guess what? I don't have to buy the daggum flat screen TV, or whatever it happens to be. So that's an optional tax. It's up to me how much I pay, how much tax I pay, not the daggum government, not some politician. That's what I don't like about the flat tax. Other than that, I love the flat tax. I think it's ultimately fair, because everybody pays the same percentage, although they don't pay the same amount. Duh. I mean, that's just, honestly, duh. But a national sales tax is optional. If you don't want to pay the tax, don't buy the item. It's that simple. Now, there are some things you can't get away from, but you're going to have so much more money in your daggum pocket that you're going to be able to afford to pay the sales tax. But that's the point. So that's about all I've got before I hemorrhage over this thing. I hope you I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. I don't look like I'm enjoying it, but I love this kind of stuff. I don't know why, I just do. So this is the Common Constitutionalist, Brent, signing off another week. And depending on the weather, this may be the very last outdoor remote location podcast that I do for the year, because it's even with gloves on, it's getting a bit nippy out here. So that's all I've got. See ya.